Hello and welcome to my art corner. In today's episode, we're going to be making Psyduck, the most symbolic Pokemon to a stay-at-home mom like myself. If you're new here, I usually make handmade art and small collectibles. Instead of stressing over a shop, I just want to make things just for fun again. This is episode 2 of creating just for the joy of it, chasing that little dopamine rush that comes from actually finishing something. As an ADHD artist collector, that's a pretty big deal for me. So let's start with this Psyduck, a symbol of confusion, hidden power, and emotional overload. Let's see what we can make together. So I already cut out the base of the clay for the water. Now we're just making the individual pebbles that go around the pond. This process can be time consuming if you're making a lot, but every pebble doesn't have to look the same or be the same shape. I just used TLC, which stands for translucent liquid clay, to adhere the pebbles to the water when baking. It just acts like a glue, and when heated in the oven, it will dry. When making my pond, I always place each pebble by hand one by one to make sure they all fit together evenly around. As you can see, each pebble is a different shape and size, but for personal preference, I still like to make them look rounded, because some real rocks can look sharp and edgy. You're probably wondering why I'm making 4 ponds instead of just one for this video. Well, it was because I was planning to make more Magikarp for my shop for a limited time, and I was trying to do everything in one day, as to why you see a lot going on of making Psyduck and more Magikarp on the side. This is how it looks like when all the pebbles are done. So I went on Pinterest to find some inspiration, and these are some pictures of Psyduck I was looking at. I really liked the Floaty Psyduck because it was something that was similar to my last make of Magikarp in the pond. I was thinking about making a series of putting water Pokemons in a pond, but I'm still debating this choice because some Pokemon are a little out of my crafting league since I'm just self-taught and I am always just trusting the process as I go. I started off with making the Floaty first to put Psyduck inside, since we're just making half of his body and the rest will be under the water. Excuse the 2 Magikarp in the back. Someone suggested I sell them, so I made 2 more, but I'm not sure I will be selling more of them because I don't want to get copyrighted or sued. But if I do have an overstock of items, I might just have to sell my collection I make over time. After adding the Floaty and trying to clean up the clay a bit, now it's time to add the body and arms. I started off with making a cone shape for the body and sticking it into the middle of the Floaty. The cone shaped body was a little high for my liking, so I just pushed it down more, since I still have to add the head on top as well. Now it's time to add the arms. I just make a small snake and cut it at an angle to attach to the body. When using any tool, my main tool I use is just my hand and this clay needle. Even when applying any tiny features, I still prefer using my hands to place it over my needle tool, because I like to have a sense of where it is being placed. The needle tool is only if I need to adjust it. When adding the head, sometimes it takes me more than one try to put it on, because it either looks like it's just floating off the body or it just looks like it's squished on top. I wanted to take him off the baking pan so I have a better workspace instead of smothering over the other clay work and messing them up and having to redo them. So I put him on an acrylic block so I can hold and work on him better. Can you guess what anime I'm watching? I needed more face feature inspiration, so I had to Google more pictures of Psyduck on my phone. I tried an oval duck beak. His beak is a little more detailed with a triangular feature that sticks out, but I had no clue how I was going to achieve that while making it look so tiny, so I just left it a plain simple oval. Psyduck has big white eyes and a tiny black pupil, but I didn't want to put those eyes on him. So we're letting him relax and enjoy the calm pond today, since he's in there by himself with no one to overwhelm him. It's not Psyduck without his iconic 3 little strands of hair on top of his head. I decided to add blush to make him more relaxed, enjoying himself in the pond. The longer I kept working on him, the back of my mind kept telling me an oval beak was too plain and simple. It gave a "you just stuck an oval on and called it a day" look. So I took off his beak. The base was stuck, so I had to use my X-Acto knife to scrape off the excess. I mean, I kinda like the pulled look from the side, but looking at it from the front, it looked like a sharp curved pencil. This time I at least tried to make the beak look better, like it was an actual protruding duck beak. It took me a while to put it on because I didn't want to accidentally make him fall out of his pond. I liked how his beak was looking, so I blended it in to secure it so it wouldn't fall off later. Excuse the behind the camera realistic footage of me actually working on it. This is how close I have to be to try to clean up the clay a bit, because I can be a perfectionist at times. I accidentally ripped off his strands of hair at this part, so I had to redo a new hairline. Here's also more real footage of how it looks like to be a mom full-time while trying to be an artist on the side at home. This is what I finished so far. He's looking pretty good, but we're not done with him yet. Being a mom, most of the time you have to sacrifice your me time for your kids, and also learning a lot of patience while trying to find some free time to continue what you love to do, especially during the naps or bedtime, which is why it takes me a while to edit and upload these videos. Especially since I do voiceovers and you can hear them chewing in the background snacking by me, or they're talking and trying to touch things.
See, look. Hi.
Also, if you haven't watched my last video on Magikarp, here's a little glimpse of him she was showing you, but the camera won't focus on it, so it's a sign you should go watch it instead to get a better look. So show baby your fish.
Don't worry.
Not done.
Yeah.
Too shy.
Hi.
Show baby your fish.
Duck day.
Say, baby, look. He's so funny.
Duck. The duck.
Yeah, that's my duck.
The duck.
Yeah, that's my duck.
Wow.
Now I'm putting Psyduck back onto the baking pan to bake in the oven before we continue. Excuse everything in the background, that is for another vlog, but here's Psyduck all baked. I was working on my other clay pieces today as well, so he was just chilling in his pond until it was his turn to be resined. Now it's time to paint his tube. I didn't want to go the extra mile and make the tube two different clay colors. That's why I made it plain white in case I was going to make a flower floaty, but we're going to be doing a plain white and blue floaty today. This is the paint color that was similar to the pictures. So I bought these nail brushes because I wanted to do nails and get into nail art, but I never did, maybe next time. I did buy everything for nails though, because I'm an ADHD art collector, but my husband calls me a hoarder. I am a craft collector who collects projects and don't make them, but maybe we will with how this series is going. I might just try to get to do all my hobbies I collected over the years. I have bought every supply, it's just no energy to motivate me to do them. This is why I started this dopamine crafting journey, to start crafting again and get out of the burnout. Stop overthinking and just do it. Do it for the fun of it and for the feeling of feeling accomplished when it's done. This is the brush I chose to use to paint the floaty. So if you're wondering why I chose this Pokemon for episode 2, well, I chose Psyduck for this episode because he's always holding his head like his brain is too full, and lately that feels really familiar to me. As a stay-at-home mom to 2 girls, my days are full of noises, questions, emotions, and tiny emergencies. Even when things are calm, my brain doesn't really turn off. Psyduck is underestimated. He seems confused, but when the pressure builds, he's incredibly powerful, and that's how rebuilding my business feels like. Like I'm figuring it out as I go, even though I know there's more to me. You're not failing, you're just loading. I like Psyduck because he doesn't have it all together, but he still shows up, and finishing him today feels like a reminder that even in this season, I'm still creating something on top of being a mom and wanting to make content for you guys on this journey together. Psyduck's representation to me is like carrying a full mind, raising 2 daughters, and still trying again and again. Here's how his floaty looks all painted. Now we're adding a layer of resin into the pond to make the water look more realistic. Sorry he keeps going out of frame. It's not easy recording and putting on resin while doing it behind the camera. I tried brushing off some of the excess resin that was on his face, then I put him outside to cure. While he was curing, I forgot I ran out of pre-made lily pads and bubbles, so we're making more of that before we continue. I made so many bubbles, but you can never have enough bubbles. The only downfall to bubbles is I can feel the arthritis from rolling them all up into little tiny balls. Here they are all baked and ready to be applied. My bubbles are made from translucent clay, so they give the translucent effect. This is the second coat of resin before applying the lily pads and bubbles to the pond. You could use a paintbrush, but I like to tilt the resin to go around instead. Now it's time to add the lily pads and bubbles. The reason why I do 2 coats of resin instead of just 1 full one is because I want the lily pads and bubbles to look like they're floating above the water a bit instead of it looking like they're at the bottom of the pond. This is why it takes a little longer to make, but definitely worth the extra details. Now it's time to put him on a pop socket. I really wish I had magnets to turn him into a fridge magnet. But because I'm broke and have a lot of leftover phone grips, that is where he's going to be going for now. I always score my phone grips in the bottom of the clay so that when I put on E6000, it should bond together better and won't come off. When scoring the clay, it will leave some dust particles, so I always wipe the excess off the bottom and the table with a baby wipe. I like to make sure the bottom of the clay is completely dried before continuing. You don't need a lot of glue, but I like to just apply it all over to make sure it's going to be secure. If you do add too much glue, it might come out at the sides when you press it down, but you could just wipe off the excess if it does. Okay, I was really proud of how he was looking right here, but we're still not finished yet. To make him even more secure, I have to add one more layer of resin all over the whole thing and sides. This will ensure that the pebbles will not be falling off, the clay pieces will not be getting scratched, and that it will definitely not be falling off the base of the phone grip. I like to make sure the resin goes inside the open gaps in between the phone grip and the clay as well. Sometimes I just stick my resin pieces under a UV lamp for a while before putting them outside to cure, but today I just decided to put him completely outside. Can you spot Psyduck chilling in the direct sunlight curing outside? I did forget about him the rest of the day until the sun was gone. Don't worry, I did bring him back after dark. I'm not going to be just abandoning him outside in the cold overnight. And there he is, Psyduck, just happily swimming in his little pond. Honestly, I'm so glad I took the time to make this. It feels really good to finish something again, not for the shop, not for sales, just for the joy of making art. I forgot how nice that feeling is. If you made it this far, thank you for hanging out with me in my little art corner. This is just the beginning, day 2 of creating for fun again. If you'd like to see where this new chapter goes, feel free to stick around. No pressure, just cozy vibe, crafts, and maybe a few more Pokémons. Until next time, keep creating, stay kind, and remember to enjoy the process and the little things that make you happy.